Hello and welcome back to the third rail. We have a new addition to the collection this week. I received this Austrian passenger train set a while back, and I thought it would be nice to have a quick look at it along with other related items from the collection this week. This is a Märklin product, of course. It's set 2843. It's a limited edition commemorating the 150th anniversary of railways in Austria. It is a so-called export model that was sold exclusively in Austria in the catalogue year 1987-1988 and worldwide in 1988-1989. Now we're going to open the box straight away this week. This reveals a locomotive and two coaches in what is called the Valusek livery. This is the main event in this set. It was a design chosen to replace the existing Jaffa livery and just about to be rolled out at the time. The locomotive is a class 1043. It's a multi-purpose locomotive made in Sweden by ASEA, which now would be known as ÖBB or ABB, and it's identical to the class RC2 deployed by the Swedish Railways. The ÖBB had taken delivery of 10 units between 1971 and 1973. The coaches are Eurofima type coaches. The ÖBB had bought them in the late 1970s, early 1980s, and they were used on international routes. One might think that the combination in this set is a bit odd, as the 1043 seems to have been used mostly in freight during its career. But I wouldn't say the combination is impossible, as most ÖBB classes were used across all types of services. This said, a class 1144 might have been a better choice, but Märklin didn't have one in its program at the time. So, I'm going to put all this on the track. The set is new. I just needed to swap some loose tires and lubricate the locomotive. There we are, short and sweet. So we'll send it on its way. The locomotive still needs a run-in, so we'll stay on the ground loop for a bit. So far, so good. Now, the models in this set were also released individually the same year, under model number 3158 for the locomotive and model numbers 4172 and 4173 for the coaches. Technically, they are identical to other Eurofima coaches Märklin released from 1980 onwards. Near the shed we can now see the first two examples released in 1980. As far as the locomotive is concerned, Märklin introduced a new, or at least a modified tooling that would be also reused for later versions. Let me get an example of the class 1043 Märklin had in the catalogue until then. There we are. That's the 3041 from 1973. I'm laughing because my example is not the best, to put it mildly. I still don't understand how I managed to buy this thing, but it will be enough for our purpose today. Now, this version was identical to model number 3043, which is the Swedish version, released a few years earlier in 1968. So we'll get this one out. And there it is. The only difference between this one and the previous one are the pantograph and the shade of orange. Everything else is identical. The new tooling reflects modification made by the ÖBB over time. We have a Jaffa version here, it's model number 3166. Lovely thing. As we can see, the roof is different. The power lines and isolators have a different layout, and the headlight configuration above the cabs has changed too. Now that the loco has finished its running, we can have a bit of fun. I think I might have a few things in the collection that might go well with this set. One moment please. And there we are. I digged this rake of Valusek coaches out. I've had them in the collection for a few years now. We have a 4172. That's identical to the first class coach in the set. Then we have a few 4173s. They're the same as the second class coach in the set. And I recently bought this one. That's a cart transport wagon. It's model number 4174. Now with all this, I think we should be able to aim for a similar look as this picture I stumbled across recently. Look at that, quite nice, isn't it? It's a different logo, so the 1043 will have to do. And after unboxing everything, look at this sea of red. Let's see if the loco can manage all this. So we'll do the ground lobe first. I kept the plastic cover on the cars on the last wagon to keep them stationary. I couldn't find any obvious way to attach them out of the box. But as far as the locomotive is concerned, this consist is a piece of cake by the looks of it. No problem at all. Okay, I think we'll try the main line now. And we're off. Same story so far. We'll raise a pantograph later on in the video, don't worry. Now, things are about to get serious. We're exiting the station, getting on the bridge. Look at that, no problem at all. What a good locomotive we have here. Excellent. I must admit I'm quite surprised. Okay, we're back. You will surely have noticed the other models on the layout today. I wanted to put our set in context with what was happening at the time with Märklin. Before 1980, if you had wanted to model the ÖBB, Märklin wouldn't have been your choice at all. Its last ÖBB wagon had been discontinued in 1955 and its last coach in 1965. There was one locomotive in the program for a while, the 3036, a class 1141, but it was discontinued in 1973. And from 1974 onwards, the only choice of locomotive would have been the 3041 we saw earlier. Then in 1979 there was a one-year-only special edition. It was another class 1141 under model number 3154. Now this is the one parked in the station. And that was it. This must have been quite frustrating for anyone running a Märklin system in Austria. But the situation was not much different for anyone on the market for something else than a German or Swiss theme. At best, you would have had a choice of one, maybe two locomotives, and one or two coaches or wagons at a push. This all changed dramatically in the early 1980s with the development of Märklin's export model program, which I covered in another video a while back. I've put a little link at the top. Aside from the depot area, everything we have on the layout today was released in the 1980s. And this is not everything, as I have left a few items out you have seen already in previous videos if you follow the channel. If not, I've put little links at the top again. You could qualify this as an explosion in terms of choice. Now, Märklin was helped by the wave of standardization that had been going on across European railways. And they also took a few shortcuts in the process. You know, the good old take an existing model and slap another logo on its side type of thing. But a look at what the competition was up to would quickly reveal that Märklin was at a minimum on par with the rest of the industry in terms of detail and fidelity to the prototype in those years. So let's have a quick look at what else is out today. We'll start with another 1043. That's the 3160 we saw earlier in the shed. This one is pulling freight. Now, the train is made of wagons from the Austrian program. A cheap way to bulk up the offering across the entire export program was to make branded refrigerated cars. And this certainly happened for Austria too. So we have all of them in chronological order. The Gösser beer wagon from 1981. Then we have the Schoko refrigerated car from 1985. Then the Puch car transport wagon, also from 1985. Then we'll jump to 1988 with the Bahn Express goods wagons. Then the Hertha Pils beer wagon. Then the Stiegel beer wagon. And finally the Kaiser beer wagon. There were quite a few other freight items released in that time. You'll be able to see them on the move in the videos I mentioned earlier. The link should still be in the corner of your player. Now, I normally stay well away from special refrigerated wagons because there are absolutely thousands of them and no one has a complete list of them. Not even Mr. Cole and his guide. The ones I have here I only own because they feature in the export catalogues, so belong to my theme. I would normally not touch those things. Still, I think it's quite a nice consist. Okay, on to our next victim. Now we have a class 1141. That's also a multi-purpose locomotive, and this time with a few coaches. Now that 1141 is the 1979 limited edition, the 3154. Behind it we have what Märklin called BP coaches. Their reference 4241 from 1988. They were ex-Deutsche Reichsbahn coaches still running in the 70s, early 80s. And then we have another 80s edition, that's a first second class coach, reference number 4128 from 1986. I think this type would be called Schlierenwagen. I think that consist fits with that 1141, but I'm not sure. It does look okay to me in any case. Okay, and for our final victim, we have a bit more passenger traffic again. This time with a later release of the 1141. It's the 3166 from 1985. And we have a completely Jaffa consist this time, with a few 4034 and 4128s, all from 1986. And then we have the only ÖBB wagon in the standard catalogue in 1985. It's the bicycle transport wagon Puch, reference number 4412. The coaches share their tooling with the Swiss 4066 Märklin had been making for quite a few years already. Call it a shortcut if you will, but they were following the prototype, as the ÖBB Schlierenwagen were based on the design of the Swiss Einheitswagen and were manufactured under license in Austria. Märklin didn't try to hide this, going as far as using the same boxes with different model number stickers on the sides. How honest is that? Look at this sea of orange. Very 70s. Lovely. Okay, now you've been listening to me for a very long time again. Thanks very much if you've made it that far. So I'm now going to hand over to the trains and we'll watch everything on the move for a bit. And I'll rejoin at the end of the video. Well, wasn't Märklin busy in the 1980s? I think I am warming to my new acquisition. Excellent condition, good behavior on the track. What's not to like? As to the remaining models, for a lot of them, this was their first ever outing on one of my layouts. So I hope you enjoy them as much as I did. That was it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, hopefully enough for you to give it a like and maybe even subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks as ever for your support, and bye for now.